I'm Nicolette Bond, and I'm Vice President of IVC GDC. Today, I'll be talking about women in video game. I'm sorry for those people who weren't able to come to the meeting. This is a re-recording for you guys. I was planning on recording the meeting while it was happening, but I forgot to press the record button. So we'll just get right into it today. This presentation is based on my research essay, which I wrote on prevalent gender issues in the gaming industry. So that's mainly what we'll be looking at. I have the link to the research paper if you would like to read it or if you would like to know where my sources came from. The link will be posted in the resources section of our Discord server. If you found this video, you probably also found that as well. It's a long read for my essay, but if you have the time, it's all relevant information. All right, so first we'll start off talking about how the industry was originally pointed towards male players versus today, where there's many diverse players and we're kind of evening out the player field. And then we'll talk about current gender issues. Those will span from pay, workforce discrimination, harassment, and past portrayal of game characters. Then we'll go into female leaders and achievements, my favorite part. Then we'll go into women in gaming resources for people who want to look into those organizations that work to support women in gaming, and some other not really internship, fellowship opportunities and other opportunities that you can use through our club. So, and then at the end, actually, we did have an open discussion. I'll talk about we talked about in that open discussion. I can't obviously recap it since this is a re-recording, but it was fun to talk to everyone. In case you went to the meeting and you're rewatching this, it was fun talking to you guys. All right, sorry if my presentation glitches. It has a problem with moving from slide to slide sometimes. But all right, first off, will be the origins of the male gamer stereotype. Um, so back in the 1980s through the early 2000s, video games were sold as toys. Toy aisles in stores were segregated by gender, as essentially all game creators were men since there was male dominance in STEM fields. There still is, but it was a lot more prominent back then. Video game manufacturers sold their content in the boys section, so now most companies have moved towards gender neutral marketing. But that period of gender marketing created the stereotypical male gamer. That stereotype is still believed by many, but it is actually a poor depiction of the current player base. Benjamin Pawson, a researcher at Bielefeld University, finds that 40% of video game players are female. A professor at New York City Stern School of Business, Adam Alter, even claims thanks to Farmville being released on Facebook in August 2014, women over the age of 18 became the largest demographic in gaming. I found that one pretty surprising because I always thought that women were the minority, but it seems like when it comes to some games, we can get women playing games. Um, and Drew Welch, a former student of USC and current game developer, their research uncovered that females have increased to 22% of game developers in 2015, which is nearly double their percentage in 2009. It is important to note that esports has seen a growth in female players, but this section of the industry is still drastically dominated by men. Therefore, the stereotype of male gamers and game developers is no longer accurate. So this is actually a slide that we skipped when we did the presentation, but I might as well go into it for people who are watching this video because we have more time. Would you please read the question on the screen and just think about what that means to you? I would, most of the time, like people would say, I was playing in chat, they would say things like, it's a little confusing, like I don't really get questions like that. And that is exactly the response that Brenda Romero, an award-winning game developer, actually received when she did a test on her male coworkers. She was furious with how often she was interviewed about her gender rather than her accomplishments. So she wanted to turn the tables to reflect how these questions are mainly pointed at women, and women are not being valued enough for their accomplishments in the gaming industry. It's more about their gender. So her experiment proves that it is still considered to be a big deal to be a woman in gaming, even when the statistics prove otherwise. Right, and then next we'll be going into current gender issues, starting off with pay and workforce discrimination. All right, this one brought up a lot of discussion. But in September, Activision Blizzard, as many of you guys know, had reached an $18 million settlement with the US government, having been accused of sexual harassment and discrimination against their women employees. After settling, Activision Blizzard claimed to have put aside $250 million towards hiring more women and those from non binary and minority groups. They also claimed to have adopted a new zero tolerance harassment policy. It took many women employees pressing charges to make these positive changes, but not all companies have viral lawsuits to keep them in check. Gender based misconduct is also common in other game companies and in esports. Another example is that in 2020, Ubisoft, the game company known for titles like Just Dance, was under fire for its allegations of workplace abuse. So this one actually brought a lot of attention because most people in chat had heard of the lawsuit. Even people outside of the gaming industry heard of the lawsuit. It was pretty sad that it happened, but I'm just happy that there was able to be some reform because people brought up the things that happened to them, and that's just, I guess that's a sign that if there is bad things happening to you as a female or another like minority group in the industry, and you're getting hate for that, it's good to bring that up because there can be changes that come out of it. Hence, like $250 million going towards bettering your situation. So, um, I'll go into kind of the specifics later of the bad things that happened at Blizzard before that lawsuit actually kicked in. All right, so next we'll be moving into the pay gap. The general gender pay gap may have decreased, but game companies still have a significantly larger pay gap than the national average. The UK's government performed a study in which they surveyed the pay gap at game companies with more than 250 employees. Results show that the game industry has a median gender wage gap of 15.3%, while the national median is only 9.7%. I couldn't find a reliable study in the US because it doesn't seem like the US has done as much research on this. But I'm assuming that they're surveying similar companies since they're companies over 250 employees. And really large companies have and places, part of their company stationed across the world. So I'm assuming it would be larger companies. The lawsuit for Blizzard was also partially due to the fact that they paid women less than men, despite women doing substantially similar work. In competitive esports, the average pay for women is $28,000 compared to men, who make an average of $1.9 million. It is important to note that the division in pay for sports is partially due to the fact that there are no women in the highest ranking leagues in esports. But it should not be assumed that this occurs because women are not skilled in competitive games. I'll touch a bit more on this later. PayPal's global gaming research revealed that among content creators, 43% of women globally are not paid for their work, compared to only 24% of men. This difference is not terrible, but it still affects their pay gap. So now I'll be talking about why we need more women working in games. The gender gap in employment has been decreasing dramatically for game developers, but as I mentioned before, women still only make up a small percentage of those jobs. Game companies also often hold bias in promoting or employing women and recognizing their work. Another one of the alleged crimes on the Blizzard lawsuit was that they assigned women to lower level jobs and promoted them at slower rates than men, or fired or forced women to quit at higher frequencies than men. Brenda Romero, the accomplished game designer I mentioned previously from the survey, where she interviewed her male coworkers, said that she has to work 10 times harder than her game designer husband for her work to be seen. As I mentioned before, currently, there are no women among the top 300 ranking esports players, according to esports earnings. I looked into why women are still absent from the highest ranks of esports and found that many women are actually climbing the rates at a fast rate and are expected to join the top leagues over the next 10 years. But also, women do have slower reaction times. Most games are fast paced and require speedy reflexes. Although in a BBC News interview with esports women teams, the women argue that very few females join due to the misogynistic and immature culture in competitive gaming. These women also provided tournament footage in which men are quoted telling them to have their kids and get back to the dishes, followed by the sound of male teammates laughing. I watched the video personally. I forgot where where I found it, but it was under one of my sources. So if you happen to go back and look through my sources, it's in one of those articles. But the video was pretty terrible, and it's really sad to see that women have to face that a lot through streaming. I have to face a little bit of it because I streamed for a little, and I had one time that was really bad, so I decided to stop after that. Um, but yeah, it's just sad that people who want to come and play games with the community have to deal with discrimination alongside that. Of course, everyone has to, but it's a lot more prevalent for minority groups. Well, women are not minority groups, but discriminated against groups. Sorry, I'm like jumbling a whole lot more in this presentation than the actual one. It's easier when you're talking to people. Water break. All right. So competitive gaming culture is commonly rude, but especially when someone is revealed to be woman, non-binary, or from a minority racial group, as I said before. When it comes to streamers, despite the first quarter of 2021 seeing the rise of Valkyrie among other female creators, statistics show the disparity between male and female streamers is still massive, according to Stream Hatchet and their yearly statistics report on video games. In other words, most female streamers are less common and less popular than male streamers. All right, and now we'll be going into the harassment and portrayal of females in games portion of the gender issues. So I started to mention this when it came to esports, but harassment is still common throughout the game industry. Gender-based violence makes it difficult for women to feel safe and supported while working in the industry. Jennifer Clausing, an ex-Quest designer for Activision Blizzard World of Warcraft, has come forward, as many women have during the recent lawsuit. Fossing said to Washington Post, "Almost every woman I know of at Blizzard has a story of either actual, literal sexual assault that they were afraid to go to HR about, or a man with power over her, undermining her and taking credit for her work, dismissing her, talking over her, being the last person to get promoted, despite being eminently capable." The Blizzard lawsuit mentioned earlier details the tragic story of a female employee who committed suicide. CBS continues, the deceased woman had been suffering from continuous sexual harassment at work prior to her death, including an incident at a holiday party where male coworkers passed around a graphic nude photo of her. Jen O'Neill, a former Blizzard co-leader, says that she went to a party for an Activision development studio with Bobby Kotick, the Blizzard CEO, in which women danced on stripper poles and the DJ encouraged women to drink more so the men would have a better time. Sorry if my words got a little jumbled on that. Need water. But yeah, that also triggered some conversation. I do want to stop and talk about that for a second. But it's really sad to see that yes, these are instances that are still possible and still occur in multiple work industries around the world, but the fact that that was happening at such a major company and that a woman died before any change actually occurred, and I think that she died a while before the lawsuit even kicked in. And that's just it was just sad. And it was sad to a lot of people in chat, and just the fact that they had parties like that, and woman that aspired like me, and like I think one other person in chat, where we aspired to, eventually work at Blizzard. And then if we were to be in that time and to have entered the industry then, we would have had to been surrounded by that kind of work culture and not feel safe and supported in that environment. So that's just sad, and there has been reform to change that, but I hope that continues so that when I eventually enter the workforce and when other people from this club enter the workforce, that we'll be in a better environment that will support us in making games. And it doesn't have to be about our gender. All right, so now we'll be talking about the gender-based harassment within the player base. So Frida, an interviewee from PhD candidate Lena Eklund's survey of women who play World of Warcraft, says, "Where do you live? How old are you? Do you have a boyfriend?" These are three questions that you always get, and it can be quite annoying. You get treated differently because you're a girl. Another interviewee, Emily, admits that the men do not expect her to play well because she is a girl, and that she will need more help. In a League of Legends survey with 3,784 respondents, 32% of women report having been victim to sexual remarks or propositions, compared to only 3% of men. The streamer name on the screen right now, which I cannot pronounce for the life of me, a popular woman streamer on Twitch, is quoted saying, "There's this huge brigade of trolls and thousands of comments sexually harassing you or racially harassing you. Definitely puts you in a dark place." She goes on to say, "I'm definitely not the only one who experiences it. I get a lot of sexist remarks like women are only on this platform to steal viewers from their male counterparts." This record of harassment towards female gamers leads most women to conceal their gender while playing and not label themselves as gamers because they wish to protect themselves from the toxic part of the community. All right, continuing on. Um, So now we'll be looking at a past of poorly portrayed female characters. So this is mainly in the past. Luckily, most companies, at least large game companies, have been making changes where they're portraying women at least less sexualized than they were before. Not all game companies, but there has been an improvement in that. Many games and franchises have a past of over sexualizing women, especially combat games like Mortal Kombat. There have been improvements in dressing Mortal Kombat characters, but it took a long time for the game series to make changes. Some game companies still struggle to portray women well. In a study, it was found that in World of Warcraft, female dances programmed into the game are enticing, sensual, and in some instances, purely sexual. Meanwhile, for the male characters, dances are more fun and gender neutral. Um, and although some include thrusting motions, the actions are clearly comical. I personally think this is up to opinion, but I did a bit of research of World of Warcraft. I don't really play the game myself, and it seems like female elves are supposed to be warriors. If that's so, then sexual dancing does not make much sense for the character. That's again, it's up to opinion. A lot of people really love the dancing in World of Warcraft, and I think it's more of like if you're a player, then you understand that a bit more. Women wearing enticing clothing and moving seductively is not offensive. It becomes offensive when they have traits for the sake of appealing to male consumers and not to match the character's personality. Good character design uses clothing that enhances the character. When women characters are immediately given sexy outfits and extreme body shapes while male characters are not, it becomes clear that companies prioritize advertising sexy women. And luckily, we'll see some changes with that in a little bit. All right, now the fun part of the presentation. This is my favorite part. So we'll be talking about some leaders and achievements in gaming. So first off, I am definitely leaving out a lot of major female leaders in the industry, but here are some that I found and resonated with. Animal Crossing New Horizon in the previous game, New Leaf, was directed by Aya Kaigu, the first person to direct a game at Nintendo Entertainment. In her previous game, Animal Crossing New Leaf, she assembled a team that was half female. New Horizon by the end of 2020 had sold over 31 million copies. A survey of 1,000 female gamers has said that women find Animal Crossing New Horizons the most inclusive video game to play. The former president of Nintendo, Satoru Iwata, noted that 56% of people who pre-ordered Animal Crossing New Leaf were female, with many of them purchasing a Nintendo 3DS specifically for the game. He found that the game's success with women between the ages of 19 through 24 to be particularly noteworthy. I personally respect her for creating a game that successfully brought many women into gaming. So my best friend actually went into gaming through this game. And okay, if she's listening to this, she's gonna argue with me because she technically went into gaming with Pokemon, but she wasn't really playing games that often. That was like when she was really little. She kind of returned back to playing games with this game. And it was nice to see her playing on a console when I felt like I was the only one who was doing it anymore. So it's nice that this brought a lot of women into the gaming industry. And one of the criticisms that I hear a lot from people who consider themselves gamers is this isn't a real game. And that kind of hurts because I don't think that, at least personally, I don't think that categorizing real games as being competitive games and games that are like harder, um, that those are better games and that by playing those games that you're made a gamer. I don't think that's true. I think as long as you play anything that's, under the game category, then you are a gamer. We just have different tastes. We shouldn't judge each other. That's what causes this issue. Hence why we're having this presentation. Um, so producer Robin, let me say before I go into this that I found out right after this presentation that Robin Unique is actually under fire right now for emotional abuse allegations. It seems like in one of her newer games that she developed, she is suspected, at least there's a lot of people speaking out about her being emotionally abusive. There's currently allegations. I don't think there's been any lawsuits or anything towards her related to that. But I'm still going to talk about her because I do like this game. Although, whether how you feel about her, how I personally feel about her, I don't know how to feel about her right now because of what happens. But I will talk about her the way I did during the presentation because you guys missed it and you probably still want to hear. So she's the co-creator of Journey. It was released in 2012. Um, it was known to many as one of the best games of all time, and it won numerous awards after its release, such as 6 Game Developer Choice Awards and the Best Game of the Year by popular game news companies IGN and GameSpot. Her game also received a nomination for Best Score Soundtrack for Visual Media at the 2013 Grammy Awards. So personally love this game soundtrack. If you ever can just listen to it, well, you should play the game before you listen to it, but the soundtrack is also great to just listen in the background. I like to listen to it while I'm doing homework, but it's fantastic. It has been revolutionary for game designers with the character's fluid movements, subtle indications, and directing the player to progress, like distant flags in the wind. Distant flags, the wind, and the scarf, as you can see on the screen. And the effective emotional curve of the storyline, which you can see. Oh, you can't see in the top right because my video is there. Here, let me see if I can move it. Oh, no, if I do that, then you can see everything else, all my tabs. I'm sorry, but if you want to look up Journey emotional curve, then you'll be able to see that, or storyline. If you look up in images, it should pop up. Yeah. All right, continuing. We're going to be looking at Brenda Romero, who she's a little bit less commonly known, unless if you have played Wizardry 8, which she worked on. So she's a game designer, but I'm mainly putting her in this presentation because of her work for the Women in Gaming movement and the many talks that she's given. And I personally like listening to what the videos that she's done and speaking events as well, because I think she's a great speaker. Unlike me, I mentioned her before as the person who interviewed her male coworkers with gender-based questions that she receives herself. She's written books related to the industry, development, and gender in the industry. I recommend her TED Talks, as I put on the bottom right. You'll be able to access that when I eventually post this with the video. She also brings up the important point that as long as the media continues to value females in the gaming mainly for their gender rather than their work, there cannot be gender equality. All right, continuing. Overwatch League team Shanghai Dragons signed 19-year-old pro player Kim Gigori Seyoung, probably saying it wrong, confirming reports that she'll be the first woman to play in the league. Gigori is best known for her godlike Zarya skills in Overwatch, and many people accused her for hacking because of her skill, but she disproved the accusations in a video. So yeah, that's just one of the pieces of evidence that a lot of people don't believe that women can play games very well, which is sad because obviously they can. Valkyrae is a famous streamer and YouTuber who was YouTube's most watched female streamer in 2021. She is co-owner of 100 Thieves, an esports and apparel company. She is also an advocate for women in online gaming. I don't watch her, but she's a really big name, so you guys probably do. And if you have some bias against her, because streamers usually do have some sort of controversy, it's important to just look at the fact that she obviously is really good at what she does because she brings in such a large audience. So I'd at least applaud her for that, even if you don't agree with everything she does. All right. So, I'll be looking at a few female game characters. I personally picked one. One of them is my favorite game character, um, Aloy, the protagonist of award-winning game, and I it's my favorite. It's also my favorite game when it comes to story specifically, and it was graphics for a while until I saw Genshin, and then that changed. Aloy was a risky casting for the game's developers. Yoshida, president of Sony's Worldwide Studios, revealed in an early interview that they had felt the need to put the game through rigorous market testing for this reason. She's a female lead character, he explained. That has always been the vision by the team, but we had a discussion. Is it risky to do a female character? Luckily, they stuck with her. She's intelligent and curious and strong. She wears practical outfits that are filled with personality and has a unique face that looks like it belongs to a real person. She takes initiative when other characters falter. She's a progressive herself, breaking taboos and changing tradition where she sees fit. There's a lot which makes her great, but I recommend you playing the game to figure out the rest of it. And then next, I'll be talking about Lindholm, Brigitte. I don't play Overwatch, so I hear, at least from my friends, that they personally do not like her character, like at least by skills. I'm gonna be mainly looking at her storyline and how that connects to her appearance and just how detailed her storyline is as well. And that's what I respect about her. So put all the biases away. Lindholm in Overwatch is an avatar wearing heavy, full coverage armor designed by a woman. Her strong armor is the product of her engineering hobby and matches her character's catchphrase, I am Brigitte Lindholm and I will be your armor. Despite not being sexually suggestive, she has a large following with the game's community. She is not beloved by all the game's players, as I said, but let's just appreciate her detailed appearance and personality and how they complement each other. All right, now the end of the presentation. So, organizations that assist women entering the industry that inspire more to join are important in many ways. They help bring more women into development careers, which in turn will lead to better portrayed female characters in a more diverse range of games. They encourage women in the industry to call out misogyny and discrimination so that the public can call for reform. And it's just nice to have a community to learn how to make games and talk to other women with that interest. Here are a few popular organizations, which I list on the screen. They hold conferences, take donations, and have many other opportunities. If you know of any more opportunities or organizations, please let people in the club Discord know. I only found the ones that popped up really quickly. I don't know a lot about specific ones or specific programs going on right now that we can participate in as college students. So if you know anything about it, please let us know. Especially me too, because I'd love to join that. And I recommend, oh yeah, I recommend that specific YouTube video, which you'll find again when I link this presentation. Um, it is a GDC conference video about women in gaming organizations. It gave a lot of good information about why they're important and some names of current women in gaming organizations that at least the speakers were a part of. And lastly, in partner announcements on the server, the Discord server, you can find my announcement about the Summer Girls Make Games Fellowship for the summer of 2022. I'm personally signing up for that one. It looked pretty legit. If you are a girl who makes games, or has any experience that you think you'd be able to help high school girls learn how to make games as well, then that's a good opportunity. You just scroll up a bit, you'll find it. Oh yeah, I forgot to change. So yeah, at the last part, I said that I forgot to put an image in there for the open discussion that's related to games. So we're just gonna have a science one. So here we talked a bit. I'll talk a bit about what we discussed. But yeah, thank you guys for listening so far. You can leave. I told people this is where you can leave as well. But if you want to hear some of the stuff that we talked about on the chat when we got to the discussion part, Martin from SGDA recommended the Code Coven game dev community. I personally don't know this game development community for women, but this is more of like an inclusive thing. I don't think it's just women. But yeah, they recommended this. So I will link that as well so that you guys have access to it. Um, yes, compliments on me. Yes, see, if you were there, you would have seen the best version of this presentation. Uh, but oh, and Martin also says that Code Coven aims to be intrepidly daring, providing marginalized developers with the skills and confidence needed to thrive in the games industry. Yeah. And they also offer developer programs for those who are interested in starting game development, like Unity and Unreal courses. We talked a bit about Ellie from The Last of Us. She is another strong protagonist, not really protagonist, but she's one of the main characters. And oh, sorry, I was looking up Orwell for my class project. So here, we're gonna go into Ellie from The Last of Us. Yeah, we looked at her, just talked about her a bit. Uh, First off, I'd love to say The Last of Us is a great game. I love how, at least from a narrative perspective, because I'm an aspiring narrative designer, I love how they really mesh the whole control thing and dialogue at the same time, where you're playing the game as the dialogue is rolling, and it's played like a movie. And it's one of those games where I've seen this probably happen the best out of, at least that I've seen so far. But that's hence why it won so many awards. It was great, and Ellie was one of the major characters of that. I don't really remember too much about her, but yeah, that's her. Another strong female character. Um, Another, I think we also talked about another one. We talked about Bayonetta. Oh, yeah. So we talked about the controversy of Bayonetta. So I talk a bit about Bayonetta in my research paper. You know what? I'm gonna go back to my 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 paper and see if I can find it here. Oh, here it is. Okay. Yeah, so she was assigned by a woman. She has armor largely made up of her hair, which becomes more revealing when she fights. This suits her character, who is a witch, and historically during the Salem witch trials, were suspected to produce magic from their hair. As a result, during that time, the suspected witches would have all their hair cut off. Bayonetta has been designed with depth, so she becomes more real than the stereotypical sexy female character. So yeah, that's what I said. Okay, now I'm remembering. So her actual clothing is made up of her hair, and that's why it peels off. So it is a bit of a sexualized choice, but again, it plays into the personality. So I think this is actually beneficial to the character. I like her. Controversial, but up to you. I like to see her as a positive figure. Um, and then we also talked about Samus. So Samus is another, at least now, very positively portrayed female protagonist of the Metroid game series. I haven't played. I've played on with Super Smash Bros, but not the actual Metroid game. But she used to be depicted badly in like the NES game. And here, let me show you. This is Samus portrayed in like the NES game. Um, I think if you unlock something while doing something in the game, I read about it, but I can't really remember now. That this, like, you can see Samus just dressed in a bikini without all the armor on, and again, that played into the male consumer. I find it pretty stupid, but again, that was a long time ago, so that's not her now. Can't blame her for her past, right? Oh yeah, I don't know this person, but Martin said that they started their own gaming studio. Oh, Okumi worked on Bayonetta. Oh, okay. All right, I think that's it. We talked about more. I can't remember. Thank you guys for watching this video full screen so I can just talk with you guys. or whoever is listening to this video. But I wanted to say this to last so that hopefully people had, left by now if you don't want to kind of listen to why I picked to do this presentation and why this matters to me. This is more of like a personal, like I didn't really talk about this in the meeting, so it's like you can leave if you want to. But I picked to do this meeting because I'm going to be entering the game industry. Hopefully, over the past year though, I've come to realize that I like writing for practically every entertainment industry. So I don't know if that will be gaming. And I personally chose to do this as well because I have had past bad experiences in as a woman in the game industry. Um, so it's not really I was more of like a player when I first started hearing things because I started playing games when I was like, what, second grade? It was a while ago. I would always bring my 3DS to school. I'd be that kid who would bring their 3DS to school, and then I stopped doing it because I was a good student. But I still would openly talk about Pokemon. I would talk about other games. I mainly played Pokemon because my close friends also played it. But I also played what was on the 3DS? Sonic, Kirby, uh I really loved what was that one game? Okay, I'm gonna forget what they're called. But for the main part, I just really loved games when I was little and I was a girl, so back in that time frame, it was a big deal, especially among little kids, for a girl to be playing games. And I would hear that a lot from adults, just that it was weird that I was playing, my brother was less interested in it. And just from guys who would want to play with me or be gentle with me because I wouldn't be good at playing, which I wasn't good in the beginning, but I also entered a few tournaments and it was funny to hear like people be proved wrong or say things like, I've never played with a girl before, so it was just I felt a bit excluded from talking to men about it because there weren't a lot of women who were also playing games back then, at least around my age group, other than my best friend, which I had to talk about Pokemon with. Love you, Kenneth. Yeah, that's kind of what I had in the beginning. And I kind of moved away from gaming as I got older. And then when I eventually came back to playing games, I really went back and I was playing like just a lot of Zelda, and I'm playing a lot more now, but I was starting to play Zelda, and I would play things recommended by people when I was streaming. I'm not the best player. I'm like one of those people who farms too much, and so I'm not really fun to watch. I kind of just like to 100% things. Um, so yeah, I played for people on stream, and sometimes I would get people as a woman and as like I don't like this is actually one of like the more oh, conservative things that I wear. I usually like to wear like short sleeve and tank tops and crop tops, and so depending on what I'm wearing, sometimes people will discriminate against me or like say things that offend me. Or I had a few drunk people come into my streams and kind of mess up the mood and sometimes say things and assume just because like I'm a girl, and like I don't want to go into the specifics, but it hurts sometimes to feel like you're gonna be treated differently because you're a girl. Like there are benefits to that, but like also sometimes you just want to play with people like friends. A lot of the time people come into my streams and want to hit on me, and I've seen that a lot of other girls streams too, when you aren't really, I don't know, at least I'm personally not there for that, so I'd prefer to just play with friends. It just starts to feel unsafe after a while. I felt particularly unsafe, at least controlling it on my own and being really interactive with my community, that some people like would make me feel unsafe. And I hope that that changes over time. And I haven't experienced on hand any discrimination in the development workplace. Like I've been in this club for 2 years now, and I haven't seen anything bad like from any of the members. I've I've had like, fallout outs from some people and like past club members, but it was nothing related to gender. So, yeah, I from developers so far, I think the new generation of developers is very inclusive, at least from what I'm seeing. So I'm hoping that all the past prejudice will eventually go away and we'll go into more inclusive. Again, we are increasing the number of women in the game industry, but I hope that continues. And I hope that there will eventually be very close to equality. You can never get exactly equality, but close to it. And I hope that people don't have to warn me anymore. Oh, I worked at Best Buy for a while. That was fun. People didn't think I knew about games, but I like talk to them about it and they get confused. It's fun working at Best Buy. But a lot of my coworkers, it came from a very like warm place. So I'm really happy for them to like for them letting me know because I would tell them, hey, that I want to work in the game industry and that's why I'm here working at Best Buy because I want to learn more about what's coming out and get discounts on games. um, but they would warn me that it's not the safest industry for women, which is true, and it's just sad that that's the mindset that everyone like has to have. I hope that changes. But yeah, and thank you guys for watching so far if you have. Um, and I just if you're already here, if you're a club member at IVC, I'm sorry, but this semester, spring 2022, we are not going to be in person. We might end up having an unofficial club meetup outside of IBC. That's not really for the club. It's just if we want to meet up as people who happen to be in the club, then we might do that because our advisor, unfortunately, is off campus for this semester. Next semester, though, we are planning to go fully back in person and stream for people who aren't able to make it. But if that streaming for people who can't make it causes less people to come, then we might just do it fully in person. I'm hoping that we get a lot of people coming in for next semester, so that we can do larger events and work on full like games together and have game jams and offer more because I know that we have only been able to do so much with low commitment to clubs nowadays because of COVID. So we hope for that to change. That's practically way more than what happened in the meeting. But thank you guys for sticking around.